Hi, this is Mrs. Zhu, and we're working on homework from Chapter 5, Section 5 on page 248. I'm going to work through 6 problems. I'm going to do number 40, 44, 46, 48, 50, and 56. Feel free to scroll through any part of the video as you need. Here's number 40. I start with 5 cups is equal to how many pints? Now, in class, we didn't spend time going over the conversion table, such as how many cups are in a pint, or maybe how many inches are in a feet, but they are all on page 245 in your textbook, and I didn't want to spend that time for us to just copy those things down, and much of that is a review from 5th and 6th grade too. So when I work through a problem like this and I'm converting customary units, what I'm going to use is a strategy where I'm going to be multiplying fractions. It'll feel a little bit uncomfortable because we might not have ever been taught this method, but yet it is a very effective and easy strategy to use. Okay, I always begin with the problem, and that problem needs to be written in an improper fraction. Okay, so I'm going to begin with 5 cups, and I'm going to write it over 1, making it a fraction. Second, I'm going to multiply by a fraction. The fraction is a fraction that I create, okay, and it's the relationship between cups and pints. So when I create my fraction, it is important that in my numerator, I put the units for the answer that I want. Now, because I want to figure out what pints is, I'm going to put pints in my numerator. And I'm going to put cups in my denominator. The other reason why I put pints in my numerator and cups in my denominator is because then when I multiply my fractions in the end, the cups will cancel each other out. It's the same as me before when we used to do like x times x over x, and we would cancel out the x's because they were the same. I'm just canceling out cups, and I want to cancel out cups because I already know that there's 5 cups, but I'm looking for how many pints there are. So my final answer is just going to have pints. So to create this fraction pints and cups, I want to look at page 245 and see what the relationship between pints and cups are. Now there are how many cups in a pint? There are actually 2 cups for every 1 pint, meaning I will write 1 for the pint and 2 for the cups. So now I have this fraction 5 over 1 times 1.5, and then I would just multiply across. So I would multiply 5 times 1 and 1 times 2 in my denominator, giving me the answer 5 over 2. Pints is what's left over, and you'll see the units right here where the cups have already canceled, and that would be my answer. Now I'm going to write them mixed. 5 over 2 is the same as 2.5 pints. There's my final answer. Don't forget that for your homework tonight, you must show all the fractions you are multiplying to get full credit for your homework. So I know that some of you will want to just do it your old way, but what I want to see is that you know how to still set up the problem in a fraction. Okay, number 44. I have 3,000 pounds, and I want to know how many tons that's equal to. I start with 3,000 pounds, write that as a fraction over 1, so I always begin with the problem as a fraction. Now, I have not created a nice little rhyme to help us remember this, but if somebody wants to come up with one that would be very creative, then I will offer anybody 5 extra credit points towards their participation points, if anybody wants to do that. Okay, I will offer you 5 extra credit points if you want to come up with one, and we can share it with the whole class, and you can name it anything you want as long as it's appropriate. Then I'm going to multiply by a fraction that I create. That fraction is going to be the relationship between pounds and tons. And because I'm looking for tons, I write tons in the numerator. and pounds in the denominator. A sure way to check that I did that right, I know that there's numerator pounds, denominator pounds, so I'm allowed to cross that out, and then you'll see that tons is the only thing left over, which is the answer I'm looking for. So on page 245, it says that there's 2,000 pounds in 1 ton, so I'm going to write 2,000 in my denominator, 1 ton in my numerator. Then I'm going to multiply those two fractions together. 3,000 times 1 is equal to 3,000. 1 times 2,000 is equal to 2,000. Okay, now I can simplify this, and there is an easy way to simplify. If I see zeros, I'm actually allowed to cross out zeros when I simplify with fractions. So my final answer is 3 over 2 tons, which is the same as 1.5 tons. Okay. Number 46 is 5.5 miles is equal to how many feet? Okay, I start with the fraction, so I start with the problem in a fraction. Okay, and I do need to make sure that that's an improper fraction that I begin with. So I'm going to create 5.5 and turn that into 11 over 2. Remember, I'm multiplying 5 times 2, adding the 1, and then keeping my denominator 2. Miles, I'm going to write that with the 11. The second step is I'm going to multiply and then create a fraction. So create the fraction. The fraction that I get, should I have miles over feet, or should I have feet over miles for the second fraction that I create? Remember, it is important that I get that portion correct. Yes, I want feet at the top, miles at the bottom, because the answer that I'm looking for is feet. And also, miles and miles will actually end up crossing out. Based on page 245, I know that there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. So I'm going to write 5,280 feet in a mile, and then 1 mile down here. Okay. Then I'm going to multiply the two fractions. Now, if I can cross cancel, then I'm going to also do that. Okay, and it seems like I can. 2 and 5,280 can both divide by 2. So I'm going to divide both of them by 2, giving me 1 for 2. And over here, that's going to give me 2,640. Pretty sure I did that right. Okay. And then I will multiply across. So when I multiply, I'm going to multiply my numerators, 11 times 2,640 over 1 times 1. When I multiply those two together, what I'm going to get is a fairly large number, 29,040. Okay, so you can do the math over here, check your work if you would like. There we go. Okay, and then that's how many feet are in 5.5 miles. Okay. Number 48. I have 3 yards plus the 2 feet, and I want to know how many feet that is. Now, they gave me 3 yards, and I already know that there's 2 feet. So this I'm just going to set it aside, because later I'm going to add it back. Add back. Okay, so for now I'm just going to figure out feet. The feet for the yards. So I'm going to start with 3 yards as a fraction over 1. Creating my the second fraction. I'm going to create this fraction. And the fraction I'm going to create is going to have either feet over yards, or should I have yards over feet? What do you think? I want to have feet over yards because, remember, I want to get to the answer in feet, so I put that in my numerator. And then also that shows me that the yards are going to cancel out. So how many feet are in a yard? Based on page 245, I know that there's 3 feet for every 1 yard. So here I'm going to basically be multiplying 3 times 3, 1 times 1, giving me 9 over 1, which is the same as 9 feet. So there are 9 feet for the 3 yards. But there's also the 2 that I'm going to add the 2 feet back giving me a total of 11 feet for the answer for number 48. So there's me adding that back right here. Two more questions that I'm going to do, 50 and 56. Number 50, I have 3/4 of a pound is equal to how many ounces? So I'm going to start with my problem in a fraction. Great, it's already in a fraction, so I don't really need to do anything else with that. Then I'm going to multiply by the fraction I'm going to create. The fraction that I create is going to be the relationship between ounces and pound. Because I'm looking for the answer in ounces, I write ounces in my numerator and pounds in my denominator. I also do that so that when I do multiply these two fractions, pounds will cancel out. Okay, so on page 245 in the textbook, it says that 16 ounces is equal to 1 pound. So I'm going to write 16 in my numerator, 1 with the pound. Then I'm going to multiply my two fractions. When I multiply my two fractions, I can check to see if I can cross cancel. And it seems like I can, the 4 and the 16. 4 can divide by 4, becoming 1. 16 can divide by 4, becoming 4. Okay, now I can multiply. I'm going to multiply 3 times 4 in my numerator, 1 times 1 in my denominator. I have left over the units, which is ounce, which is perfect, exactly what I wanted, giving me the answer 12/1 ounces, which is the same as just saying 12 ounces. If I go a little fast or you need extra practice, go back and look at 40 earlier in the video where I did kind of more slowly explain the questions. Last question is 56 that I'm going to do for the video. 3½ quarts. I'm going to look for how many pints that is. So I always begin with a problem written as a fraction, improper fraction. So I'm going to make it improper. So I'm going to get 7/2 quarts. I'm going to multiply that by the fraction that I create. That fraction is the relationship between quarts and pints. Okay. Should I write pints over quarts or quarts over pints for my fraction that I create? Good, pints over quarts. So pints goes in the numerator, quarts in the denominator. Remember, because I want the answer to be in pints, I put in the numerator. And that also means that the quarts cancel out, so I know I'm going in the right direction. Based on page 245 in the textbook, I know that there are, how many pints in a quart? Yes, there are 2 pints in a quart, so 2 for the pints, 1 for the quart. And I'm going to multiply, and because I can cross cancel when I multiply, I'm going to cancel the 2 and the 2, becoming 1 and a 1 each. That gives me 7 times 1, 1 times 1, giving me the final answer of just 7 pints. Bye, see you later.